Welcome to the ODDSBREAKER'S #1 place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 68 of 2020. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the ODDSBREAKERS and follow us on social media / the ODDSBREAKERS. This episode is being brought to you by jazzsports.ag. For a 50% sign-up bonus, please visit Jazz Sports and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms, conditions, and location apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs, sponsor the website and the podcast, we'd love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $24.99 a month, you can get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. If nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free Picks newsletter subscriber. Another fantastic week of college and NFL football. Well, college, we did pretty well. 6-5-1 on our ATS over-unders. We didn't hit any money line sprinkles, unfortunately. Wasn't a ton of upsets. Would have been 6-3-1 if I didn't buy back on Michigan for a little bit, and if I didn't buy back on Florida State for a little bit. I bought back for half just because the line moves were that large. So when it goes past your number, you got to do that. And we still secured a profit from the Wisconsin and the NC State game. But, I mean, those lines shot up so much. It's just kind of a rule of thumb. Take some of the pressure off and hopefully hit that juicy middle. But either way, we're up a little over 7 units in college football, down about 4-ish in NFL. So the Ravens busted our teaser, bringing us to 6-4 instead of 6-3 in teasers. There was a massive weather game, I guess you'd call it. There was a lot of rain, a lot of wind. And what did the Ravens do? They played like it was a beautiful day, whipping the ball up and throwing interceptions and just playing utterly stupid. Belichick definitely outcoached Harbaugh. I guess Jim Harbaugh wasn't the only person that was out-coached last weekend. It was his brother John as well against the Patriots. And, that when the Patriots threw that pass, that the receiver threw it, what's his name? Jacoby Myers, that's it. He threw that pass, a bomb. Well, about 25-yard bomb, but either way, he completed the pass. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, man, the Patriots might win this game. And they controlled the second half. The under hit because of the weather, and they definitely hit it. I took a couple props in that game. I took Cam Newton under 191 passing yards. Well, he only had 118. They didn't need to pass it much in the second half. And took Lamar under for less, under 198, but he actually went over 249, so only a slight profit since we went a little bit higher on Cam Newton for the props. What happened is Lamar Jackson dinked and dunked really well, and the yards after the catch seemed pretty plenty. Gus Edwards had, for example, 31 yards on 2 catches. It's a lot of yards after a little running back wheel route. Devin Duvernay, 3 catches for 45 yards. Just kind of little chunks of yards was pretty much what got that under. But I thought it was the right play for both quarterbacks, but apparently one flaked out. But at the same time, this hopefully took some of the survivor pools out. Probably not a ton. A lot of people were on the Packers, and a lot of people were on the Steelers, is what I'm guessing. But either way, I'm guessing that some faltered with this one because the Ravens were a 7-point favorite. Now, just showing how crazy the NFL is, I mean, the Packers almost lost to the Jaguars. They had to score a touchdown at the end of the game, and the Jaguars had an opportunity to drive down the field. Now, they failed, but that's how close the Packers were to losing at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's just the ebbs and flows of the NFL. Some years is tougher to handicap than others, but, we had a great year last year, and I think we're still in the black this year, so that's a good thing. The Colts versus Titans on Thursday. The Titans looked pretty inept at home against the Colts. The Colts showed what defense is all about pretty much and held the Titans scoreless the whole second half of that game. The Colts kind of turned it on a little bit lately. They're a slight favorite against the Packers right now. I wonder how high that thing is going to get. The Browns. Now, this is a misleading score, and I'll get to that during the misleading scores. They only won 10-7, but they really outgained the Texans. The Texans kind of scored a garbage touchdown at the end. Wish it was a field goal, but, ended up being a touchdown, pushing my -3 bet, but it beat a ton of other bets. Nick Chubb went down instead of scoring, doing the right thing. Now, there was only a second left, so it didn't matter in this circumstance, so you can almost argue that was a bad beat. But with any time on the clock, the rule of thumb is if you can run the clock out by kneeling, then you do not score. You saw what happened to Todd Gurley against the Lions, and the Lions won that game, right? So in this circumstance, whoever was on that side of it's probably pissed off because they've been on the other side of it when the running back or the receiver or the quarterback has decided to score anyways and blow their spread or blow the lead completely. So that's happened many times, and unfortunately we were on the wrong side of it, but at the 3, since we gave it out on Monday last week, we were fortunate enough to just push on that one. Giants beat the Eagles, and man, the Eagles looked inept. Lots of money came on the Eagles. That thing went up from -3 to -4 to -4.5, and the Giants beat them outright. The Giants have improved a little bit, it looks like. I'm not sure how much because the Eagles are just this bad, and they look bad. They were getting hit. Wentz didn't know where to go with the ball. It looks like the coaching's bad on that team. They're not adjusting to their deficiencies, some of their injuries that they have on offense, some of the injuries that they've had on defense. They really don't make any adjustments, and I blame Doug Peterson there. And I'm just not so sure I'm that high on him anymore. But either way, this division is now completely up for grabs. I mean, Eagles 3-5-1, Giants 3-7-0, Washington 2-7-0, and the Cowboys 2-7-0. Every team here has a chance, believe it or not. So it's going to be really interesting to see who is the best pathetic team to make the playoffs, while somebody in the NFC West is going to have possibly a 500 season or better and miss the playoffs. The Buccaneers took care of business against the Panthers. One of my losers in this game had the Panthers good number at +6.5. Apparently, Teddy Bridgewater did get injured at some point in the game. He played through it, but they were terrible the second half. I think they had less than 50 yards of offense or something the whole second half. And part of that was Tampa Bay's defense. But, Carolina was up by 7 points at points in this game. I know it was in the beginning they were up 7-0. I thought they were up later, but their defense just could not stop Tom Brady in that offense. Tough one for me. I thought that was the right side. One has to wonder if it was the right side if Bridgewater was healthy, but they flaked out completely. They scored 6 points in the second half when the Tampa Bay Bucks scored 29. So halftime, it was close. It was 17-17, and then just caved in on the Panthers. The sharp side was the Broncos. There was one I laid off of. Drew Lock threw 4 interceptions. We had the total in that game. We had the over. 37-12 in the red zone. Lock threw 2 interceptions in the end of the first half, and coming back at the very end, trying to score the garbage touchdown. He threw one again. 2 other interceptions throughout the game. Drew Lock blew the spread and the over on this game. What I said to one of our colleagues, I said, Drew Lock is good enough to screw you when you bet against him, and he's also terrible enough to bet on him in a perfect spot, like against the Raiders here. You thought that this would be a great get-up spot for them. They were 3-5, and could have actually put a little bit of a, let's just say, good win on the season. A little check mark there against the Raiders. That would have been nice for them. The Dolphins beat up the Chargers, and I'm sure the Chargers outgained them. I'll have to look at that box score again, but I've been saying that pretty much every week against the Chargers, and there's just such a poorly coached team. And we've been through this a lot, but Tua Tagovailoa is 3-0 since he became a starter. So I got to tell you, the Dolphins are looking pretty good. They are the most efficient team in the NFL, believe it or not. The most exciting game last Sunday was the Bills versus the Cardinals. What a finish that was. 14 points were scored in the last minute of that game. I believe that sent it over the total because it ended at 62. I think the total of this was in the 50s, and they were at 48 there with a minute left. Diggs makes a phenomenal catch from Josh Allen to go ahead. They think they win the game. Kyler Murray drives to the 50 or the 40-yard line, goes back the last second and whips a Hail Mary towards DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins has 3 or 4 defenders on him, jumps up and grabs the ball, owns it, and scores a touchdown to win in the final seconds of that game.
I swear I've seen a lot of stuff in my life, but that was awesome.
That was awesome. And that's why we watch it, That's why we watch football. As much as we complain about it, that Bills and Cardinals game was just fantastic at the end. And I got to tell you, another thing factored into the spread there, instead of kicking the extra point, they decided to take a knee so it doesn't get blocked, and the Bills run it back for 2, being that there was 1 second left on the clock. So, advanced move by Kingsbury there really affected the spread because a lot of people had -1s, money lines, pick'ems, -2.3, +2.3 on this game. It was bouncing around there all week long. Our premium play winner, one of our premiums, the Rams against the Seahawks, 23-16. Was glad I played that one. Lots of people were playing the Seahawks, but just thought the Rams were in a great spot here, coming off the bye. The Seahawks, a little bit fraudulent. They don't have a defense. The Rams do, and the Rams were able to shut down the Seahawks receivers and get to Russell Wilson. They had a great game plan. Sean McVay right there was part of the reason that they won that game by 7 points. The Saints was another winner against the 49ers. We were happy about that. We took -9 on that. Don't love always laying -9, but it was just a situation where you had to. When the Niners jumped up 7-0 in the first quarter, it didn't feel too comfortable, but at the end, the Niners got a little bit more injured, and the Saints ended up prevailing. But what did worry me at the end was that Jameis Winston had to come in because Drew Brees is injured and he has some broken ribs, we were finding out. It looks like he's going to miss some time, possibly all the way to the playoffs here. Broken ribs are no joke, and bruised ribs really hurt when you breathe. Had that happen to myself before. Kind of hurt every time you breathe deeply. So it was it's a painful injury. I'm just wondering when Breeze is going to come off of that. I'm going to guess 4 to 6 weeks is probably what I would guess, but it could be up to 8. Steelers took care of the Bengals and made Joe Burrow look like a rookie. About time somebody did that. Patriots, like I said, did beat the Ravens. So that was your day in the NFL. Before I get to college football, before D Nasty comes on to talk about some fantasy, before we give you our free play, I want to take a look at some of the future prices here because I think there is some value, right? Now, I'm looking at the college football national championship futures here. You got to think about it, right? You have the Alabama 2-1. Horrible odds. I wouldn't take anybody. It's probably, if I was going to put it, I'd probably have Clemson 6-1. That's maybe more proper. Bama maybe 7 or 8-1. But the odds are terrible on those teams. Ohio State 2.5-1. Are you kidding me? I mean, you could do a money line rollover all the way through the championship game right now and win that yourself. That is absolutely ridiculous. Whoever would take that, it's absolutely ridiculous. As a matter of fact, Notre Dame's at 7-1. Horrible odds. Florida 8-1. They already have a loss. Okay? If they lose to Bama in the SEC championship game, they're probably not going to get in. Now, if you want to bet something here, I think we have some value. All right? Especially what happened after the last couple weeks here. Right? I mean, why would you bet an SEC team when you have Texas A&M at 40-1 who already lost to Bama? They might sneak in if something crazy happens, but I don't think they will. You have Florida at 8-1, and you have Alabama at 2-1. Don't touch an SEC team. They're overbet, and they have bad value. Now we have Notre Dame to 1 at 7-1. That's interesting. They beat Clemson. But if they lose to Clemson in the ACC championship game, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, oh, well, that's what Notre Dame is when they plays against Trevor Lawrence. So that's not going to do well for them. You know, they're going to kind of look at that as a playoff game as it is. I mean, there's a chance that they can get in. I actually like them at 7-1 over the Alabama's, Ohio State's, and Clemson prices, Florida prices, but still not good odds at all, because if they get in and they play Alabama, they're probably going to be more like plus 800 just that game. You know, they might be dogs by 15 points by then. You know, maybe, and if that's the case and you win that, you can do a money line rollover to when they play like Ohio State or Florida. You know, it doesn't matter. So terrible odds on Notre Dame. Now, if you want to look at some value, I found a team that has a lot more value than those other teams, and that is Oregon Ducks at 66-1. If you look, it's at a couple places. Bet Online is one of them. 66-1. All right. What did we find out about the Pac-12 last week? What did we found out the week before? Well, we found out that California isn't that good, losing at UCLA. I think they are only averaged like 2.8 yards per play. 2.8. They got their butts beat at UCLA. Not too worried about Oregon playing Cal anymore. All right. We look at USC. They struggled against the Arizona teams. All right. The Arizona teams. Kevin Sumlin almost beat USC last week. Herm Edwards.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Well, I'm not sure if USC played much to win those games, but they tried and they just looked completely inept. I am not worried about USC in the Pac-12 championship against Oregon. All right. Oregon's schedule here coming out. They play UCLA at home. At Oregon State, that's a win. At Cal, we found out about Cal. Then they get home against Washington. That looks pretty easy. All right. Then they get the Pac-12 championship against USC. And they're sitting here at 66-1, while BYU is at 33-1. BYU's hardest game was against Boise State. You know, they're going to go undefeated, but they're probably not going to get in. You would need Oregon to lose bad, probably, not just lose one game, probably lose bad. You would need Wisconsin to lose really bad. You need Alabama to lose twice. You need Florida to lose at least one more time. You would need Clemson to lose one more time, probably. And let's just say it's Ohio State, Notre Dame, possibly even Oklahoma. Maybe they put BYU in over Oklahoma, but it's just looking very. Oh yeah, in Cincinnati. That's who it is. Cincinnati. If they beat UCF, they're probably going to have a better case than BYU because of the schedule. So no chance for BYU, and even Cincinnati's at 25-1 with the outside looking in. You know, there could be two SEC teams in Florida, Alabama, or Texas A&M at their bad odds. But Oregon at 66-1 with their cake schedule here, but it's a Power 5 conference and a Pac-12. They might not be able to keep them out. So I like them at 66-1 coming in here. And I even like Wisconsin for maybe half that bet, around 50-1. That's where Wisconsin's at. And Wisconsin, it looks like they should be able to take care of business the rest of their schedule here. They didn't have to go to Nebraska. And obviously, the Ohio State game is where they would probably lose. But at the same time, if something happens and Ohio State has a bad game and they beat Ohio State, they're in the playoffs for sure. Sitting at 50-1 rather than taking Florida at 8-1 or Notre Dame at 7-1, I like those chances way better. All right. So I think I did find some value. Now, it doesn't mean Oregon's going to win anything, but if you have 66-1 on Oregon, look at how the room you have to hedge those two games. Let's say Oregon's playing Clemson. I mean, Oregon would probably be maybe a 10-point dog if they played Clemson, right? If they win out. Because Oregon, they're going to move up in the power ratings. It'd be a 7 to 10-point dog maybe. And so you'd be able to hedge Clemson, taking Clemson minus 600. That just takes away 6 of the units if you put a full unit on it, right? And then you'll have to make up for 7 units against the final game if they win it against, let's just say it's like Ohio State or something, right? So you bet 25 units on Ohio State and be able to make some money off of that bet, right? So, got to tell you, Oregon is a safe bet here at 66-1, in my opinion. I think there's value on it. I'm probably going to throw up to a unit on it and maybe a half a unit on Wisconsin at the 50-1. But at these prices, that's where you want to take an easier shot to get in this game. Alabama still has Florida ahead of them in their championship game. They still have the Iron Bowl in their way against Auburn. And Auburn's not that good, but they've improved so far. And they always play Alabama tough. That's interesting there too, right? Florida obviously has the loss and Alabama in the way in the SEC championship. Oregon's undefeated and has a cakewalk going into this thing. I'm loving this play. Oregon, a little bit less for Wisconsin. Let's recap real quick. A little college football here. Obviously, Wisconsin destroyed Michigan in the primetime game, 49-11. Michigan with Harbaugh is getting so much crap that every time I turn on Twitter, there's something about it. But then Michigan released a statement saying they might even extend Harbaugh coming in after this year. Now, here's what's funny about it. I think Harbaugh is good for the Big Ten, and I've said that before. But coming in with only 125th ranking in returning production at 30% of his team, I didn't expect Michigan to be that good, and other people did. So now they're giving Harbaugh that much more grief, even though this was kind of supposed to be a down year anyway. And I think Michigan knew that, while all the talking heads is calling for Harbaugh's job, like they're in charge, the media's in charge of hiring and firing Jim Harbaugh, while other people know that Harbaugh really didn't have a ton of expectations this year when you have a bunch of freshmen and sophomores playing. I covered that before, but I'm still standing by it. Now, what I will say is Harbaugh needs to get his head out of his ass and start coming into the year 2020, because some of his plays are a little bit too old school, and he's not really adapting to the pace you have to play to beat the best defenses around. He's not adapting to that. He needs to do that. I think he will, given another year or two, but right now it's not looking good. But his quarterback, Milton, he's fast. He can make quick decisions. He's young. I think he's going to keep improving too. This is a bust year for Michigan, and they might upset a few. They might I wouldn't say upset. They're probably going to be favored until they hit Ohio State, and they're not winning that game. But they might make a couple statements against some easier teams coming up here. That's what I'm thinking. But at the same time, no surprises there. I did downgrade Michigan again, and at home, you would have thought they would have made a little bit more of an effort, but Wisconsin was really hard to stop. And now that Wisconsin has a quarterback, that's scary because they have great rushing plays. They have some great jet sweeps, as you saw in this game. And now they have a guy that can open up the opponent's defense. That's huge. and that might take them all the way to the big championship game this year. They have a tough Northwestern team, 4-0 that they're facing coming up this week, so 7-point favorites right now. But I'm probably not going to touch it just because this game has a history, but I lean Wisconsin -7 for sure. I would lean them all the way up to 10. Past 10, I start leaning Northwestern. To 13 is where I would bet Northwestern. That's how big of a variance I need to bet this game, between 7 and 13. Okay. But in my opinion, Northwestern's defense is maybe the best it's been in 15, 20 years. But then Wisconsin's offense might be the best it's been in forever. So you got those things going against each other. Peyton Ramsey's always been a very good quarterback when he played for Indiana. Very experienced playing for Northwestern, but Wisconsin's defense is pretty good. And they had 4 main guys out on defense against Michigan. They were playing kind of on a skeleton crew and still did that well. Wisconsin's a very scary team. Those are my initial thoughts on this game. Might change later. Notre Dame took care of Boston College. We pushed on that one at 14, thank God. But Boston College, the BC must stand for Black Cloud, because whenever people bet on them, they seem to fail. It was a public bet. There's lots of people fading Notre Dame. And, if you didn't get this one at 14, I feel sorry for you. I think it was only 14 for a short time on Monday or Tuesday, and that's when we hit it and sent it out. But, Notre Dame, they didn't let down. That was important for them. And that's why they have a nice little road here coming through the ACC. But Notre Dame does have some challenges. They still have to face North Carolina, which can score a ton of points. And they still have to play Wake Forest, who has been improving. And that game was awesome last week. We took over 66 in that, and it did close at about 70 where I predicted. That thing went over 70 before the fourth quarter. That was an easy money overplay. I was really happy about that one. And so North Carolina, I don't see how anyone could bet under in that, but that was a very, very fun game to watch. They're down by like 20 points too, I think, into the third quarter, and they came back to win that and almost cover the spread. And Wake Forest had to come back a little bit themselves. The box score on that was absolutely crazy. Well, we have, of course, Northwestern took care of Purdue the way Northwestern does with defense. Lots of games were postponed last week, and we had some great plays. We had Ohio State over 70.5, and that thing was at 75 when that game closed. Was a little bit pissed about that. The BYU North Texas one was closed, and I was gonna take the team total on BYU, or not BYU, UAB, and then that didn't work out. Another public dog was Michigan State. Kyle Hunter was right. He said, don't touch Michigan State. They didn't even score a point. Indiana beat them 24-0. That's going to be another challenge for Wisconsin, but I think Wisconsin gets Indiana at home, so they should be okay there. But Indiana, a very dangerous team. Going to be a very exciting game against Ohio State this weekend. At least you think so, but Ohio State's favored by 20.5 right now. Virginia Tech can't get over the hump. They keep losing at the last minute to teams, as you saw against Liberty last week. Miami took care of them. Miami only one loss to Clemson this year, 25-24. Miami wins that game. Florida looked great against Arkansas. Kyle Trask was just throwing dimes, 23 for 29, 356 yards and 6 touchdowns. Kyle Trask just put him in the top of the Heisman board. Well, that's kind of just a little recap of college football last weekend. We have an exciting weekend coming up. Now let's get into a little college football misleading final scores. And we're going to start right away with what the MACtion did over the week. Akron outgained Ohio. Can you believe that? Akron outgained someone 435-307, yet lost 24-10. A 3-0 turnover ratio did them in. Toledo outgained Western Michigan 501-437, yet lost 38-41. 1-0 turnover ratio and an onside kick at the end of that game took Toledo out. Colorado State outgained Boise State 315-291 and won the turnover battle 1-2, yet lost 52-21. 3 special teams touchdowns, right? 3 of them did them bad. Some garbage yards, too, at the end there, I must say. But, 52-21 is a pretty big disparity. Iowa only outgained Minnesota 346-312, yet they won 35-7. So 2-1 turnover ratio hurt Minnesota in bad efficiency. Tulane only outgained Army 368-303, yet won 38-12. A 3-0 turnover ratio hurt Army, and their triple option was shut down. That was our biggest play of the week. 3.5 stars. Tulane -5. And that thing hit with ease, but mostly because they stopped the triple option. Penn State outgained Nebraska 501-298, yet lost 23-30. Defensive touchdowns and bad efficiency for Penn State killed them again. 2-1 turnover ratio. Penn State now outgaining everybody and losing. Georgia Southern outgained Texas State 437-299, yet only won 40-38. Georgia Southern won the turnover battle 2-3. Let's see here. This one. Louisville outgained Virginia 478-368, yet lost 31-17, a 3-2 turnover ratio. And the fact that they are named Louisville hurt them. 110 yards outgaining and losing by that much. We had Louisville +4. Thinking back to this, it's like Louisville's a team. They're always trailing in every single game. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They always seem to be trailing. It's so annoying. And it's almost like they can't play without trailing. It's just not in their mindset to do it. And it's going to be hard to bet Louisville again. It really is. There's probably going to be a number that makes it worth it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be one of those people. Let's move into college football motivational spots. We'll start with letdown spots. There were really no major upsets, so not many letdown spots. Nebraska could let down hosting Illinois after beating Penn State outright, but that thing closed closer to a pick'em than the +3 it was at all week. Wisconsin, I guess, could let down a little at Northwestern due to a massive Michigan victory, but at the same time, Wisconsin was favored, and it's still early in the season. I doubt that happens. Tulsa could let down versus Tulane after beating ranked SMU. That's an interesting one. It's not like they overcame like a Cincinnati or a UCF or anything in their conference, or even a Memphis, but SMU's been a good team the last few years. Get up spots. I could see a max effort from Charlotte at Marshall here for a get up spot. UCLA and Chip Kelly going to Oregon, where he used to coach, is a get-up spot for UCLA, right? Chip Kelly, you remember those days. UCF has a massive game versus undefeated Cincinnati. That's one right there. Massive game. NC State will want to beat Liberty after what Liberty's done to the poor ACC so far. That's another thing holding back the ACC, like losing to Liberty. 2 teams, Syracuse and Virginia Tech there. Not good. Indiana at Ohio State is their ultimate challenge. It's a get-up spot for Indiana, of course. Easy to tell that. Appalachian State at Coastal Carolina will affect the Sun Belt standings. Appalachian State's quarterback is banged up, but they say he's day-to-day. He actually went to the hospital. He got hit so hard going out of bounds, I believe, last game against Georgia State. Penn State will be desperate for a win hosting Iowa, so that's a big get-up spot for Penn State. Look-ahead spots. Auburn could be looking past Tennessee to Alabama. Very possible there. Alabama could be looking past Kentucky to Auburn. All right, that's possible. Not as likely with Alabama, though. They're like top team. Washington could be looking past Arizona to Washington State. Now, remember we look ahead spots. It's not as much of a look ahead when they're coming off of a loss. They're focused on the next team. Washington State lost to Oregon, so it's not a look ahead to the Apple Cup as much for them. So it's really not worth mentioning. It's usually more of a look ahead if you're coming off of a win. And especially if you're coming off an upset, then it becomes more of a sandwich spot. Let's get into NFL misleading final scores and motivational spots. From Week 10, Cleveland outgained Houston 356 to 243, yet only won 10-7. No turnovers, but bad efficiency for Cleveland as usual. Chubb also could have scored that at the end, if you remember. Washington outgained Detroit 440 to 372, yet lost 30-27. A 1-0 turnover ratio hurt Washington. Green Bay outgained Jacksonville 395 to 260, yet only won 24-20. 2-1 turnover ratio hurt Green Bay. Las Vegas Raiders only outgained Denver 357 to 313, yet they won 37-12. Big discrepancy there. 5-0 turnover ratio killed the Broncos. Let's see here. San Francisco outgained New Orleans 281 to 237, yet lost 27-13. A 4-2 turnover ratio hurt them. Jameis Winston also played a lot that second half, scaring all of us New Orleans bettors. Pitt, the Steelers, only outgained Cincinnati 377 to 324, yet won 36-10, a 2-0 turnover ratio, and Cincinnati was 0 for 13 in third down efficiency. Unreal. Baltimore outgained New England 357 to 308, yet lost 23-17. 1-0 turnover ratio and some bad efficiency from Baltimore. Harbaugh was outcoached, like I said, by Bill Belichick. Rainstorm affected the game a lot as well. They should have just kept running the ball with Lamar, I thought. I mean, geez, some wildcat action, some rollouts, obviously some play action. Instead, they were throwing the ball, which was ridiculous. Letdown spots. Patriots at Houston is a letdown spot after they beat the Ravens. That's a real one. Cardinals at Seattle is somewhat of a letdown spot after that Hail Mary win. It was just such a big win. I know this is a division game, but they're still celebrating that thing. The Rams at Tampa Bay is a letdown spot after beating Seattle. So that's important to know. The Rams had a nice division win there. Get up spots. Seattle needs revenge versus the Cardinals. So that's a big get up spot for Seattle. The Falcons need to capitalize against the Saints to save face. The quarterbackless Saints, I guess you'd say. The Jameis Winston Saints. Chiefs want revenge versus the Raiders. So that's a get up spot. Look ahead spots. The Steelers are looking past the Jags, possibly to the Ravens, and that's a Thursday night game they're looking to. Thanksgiving. That's a real one. The Rams looking past Tampa Bay Bucks to the 49ers. All right. So the Rams are in a letdown spot, travel spot, and makes it a sandwich spot because they have the 49ers, who they just lost to a few weeks back, on deck. That's a big one. The Jets could not care about the Chargers at all. They should only care about getting Trevor Lawrence. That's all they should care about, in my opinion. And they're probably looking towards the Dolphins at this point the next week. Maybe they do want to get that division win. But I don't understand why you'd be motivated at all this game. The Packers could be looking ahead to the Bears next week, I guess. They could be looking past the Indianapolis Colts. Probably not, but that's just one to keep in mind. It'd be, to bet the Packers at the Colts, remember that, this game's not important as the next. All right, now to give you a college football free play for Week 12. And we're going to go to the ACC here. We're going to go with Georgia Tech versus Miami over 56.5 points. All right, so Miami, they play fast, as we know, and they score fast. 22.5 seconds per play is very fast. The average is around 25.5-ish, right? Georgia Tech, they throw pick sixes when they're not scoring points. They can be very incompetent, and their defense is so bad that they allow 40 points per game, okay, on average. Now, Miami's defense is good. It's not great, but they still allow 25 points per game. Okay, Georgia Tech also plays pretty fast at 23.77 seconds per game. Per play. Between plays. 22.5 seconds per play for Miami, 23.77 for Georgia Tech. I expect a lot of points here. A couple things. This total went down a little bit, and it's because it calls for 16-mile-per-hour winds and a chance of rain. What people don't know about Hard Rock Stadium out there is that it's pretty impervious to high winds. If you get on your Google machine, take a look at that stadium. It's got a big square on top and a small square for where the sun and the air can get in from the top. All right. Very impervious to wind there and for like bad storms. That's what a lot of people don't get. They think it's more of an open stadium. It's got a dome type of feel, like a retractable dome without the dome itself. So it's actually good for overs. You know how Miami is with the turnover chain. You know they're going to get some turnovers and possibly some scores this game. For as bad as Georgia Tech's been, they at least average 5.48 yards per play. They give up 6.1 yards per play. It's a lot. Miami has played a pretty tough schedule, averaging 5.8 yards per play, yet they give up 5.4 yards per play. This total is a little bit low for this game. I expect this to get into the 60s. I think Miami scores 40 points. I think they can score more than 40, actually. But how much does Georgia Tech need? 20 points, really. 17 to 20 points to hit this total. I like the over 56.5 right now. I gave it out at 57 because I like it. Take Miami, Georgia Tech over the total. 2-star premium shared play.
Business bad? Fuck you, pay me. Oh, you had a fire? Fuck you, pay me. Place got hit by lightning, huh? Fuck you, pay me.
All right, now let's get into a little fantasy football, week 11, with our guy, Dean Nasty. All right, now it's time for a little fantasy football, week 11. We have our guy, D Nasty, back. Dave, how'd your weekend treat you?
Pretty good. It was about half and half of my leagues this week, so it's a down week for scoring too, so that was kind of surprising, but awesome finish to the Cardinals game. I couldn't believe that Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins was awesome.
Yeah, I know, and just making the Texans look stupider, from that awful trade. Or, I mean, getting David Johnson, it's like, that's all you got? My God.
He's not even playing for him right now. Who's injured?
I know, and I think they've switched later draft picks or something too. I can't remember the exact details. It was just all kinds of bad. I mean, if it wasn't for the Texans, the Bears would look like the worst. But after getting 14 yards of total offense in the second half, the head should be rolling by now. It's just awful to watch. They should never play another primetime game again, Dave. But the defense is good, but they get tired eventually. Why would you? Akeem Hicks went out. I don't know why you keep trying if you were them. So got to be hard. Yeah,
your defense can't be on the field the whole night. Like you said, they're going to get tired and they're going to definitely give up plays then.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just too hard on anybody, So I don't care how good of a defense you are. If you're on the field all night, it just gets tiring. 7 points were scored, and it was only because of the special teams. It's just that bad. It's shocking how bad it is. But hopefully you don't have too many Bears on your fantasy roster because you're not going to win anything this year with don't start a Bear again. It's not even Helen Robinson, I'm sad to say. But enough of my complaining. I've done that enough about the Bears. Let's move into something more positive. And so we'll talk about some fantasy football. Bye weeks, Dave. Who's on the bye?
Sounds good. We got a few bye weeks this week. We got the 49ers as the first team on bye. Hopefully you're not starting many people from that with all the injuries they have. But you might have Mostert, who's still injured at this time, McKinnon, and then JaMychal Hasty. Those would be and then Deebo Samuel, who's still injured as well. So there's not many people. Brandon Ayuk is probably the only person you'd be starting from the 49ers right now. And maybe a few IDP guys that are still left, like Fred Warner. The Giants, the first place Giants, by the way, I'm just shocked to say. You're going to Daniel Jones, Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, you're probably not starting Wayne Gallman, but someone did against me this week, but he still lost, of course. And then the Bears, who we were just talking about, David Montgomery, they're going to be on bye this week. So David Montgomery, Nick Foles, Allen Robinson, Cordell Patterson, who had the nice punt return or the kickoff return tonight. And then the Bills. The Bills actually is going to be the biggest bye of the week. You probably have quite a few people on the Bills. Josh Allen, of course. A couple of the receivers, John Brown, Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary maybe, Zach Moss, who's been coming on as of late. So those would be the main people on bye this week for the bye week.
The Bears are going to do everyone a favor and go on bye. So there you go. Nick Foles got injured too a little bit. It looks like at the end here. I think Bray's in right now. This game's about over anyway. 18 seconds left, fourth down. But the Giants, I guess I only started Evan Ingram. Really, I don't know too many people starting Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes. He's up and down, but now he hasn't even really been up. I don't think he's been much of a fantasy quarterback. But the Bills, man, the Bills definitely have Diggs, Brown, Singletary, Moss, Allen. Yeah, they have some serious players on there. So definitely the Bills is going to affect some people. Well, let's move into the key injuries, Dave. What do you have?
Well, the biggest one and the biggest shocker, actually, Drew Brees. He's got several fractured ribs and a punctured lung. He may be out for the rest of the regular season and may not be back until the playoffs, they're saying. So Jameis Winston's going to be a hot ticket item right now to own. That's the main injury this week. We got a few other just smaller ones. Teddy Bridgewater exited in the fourth quarter with a knee injury, so that's another one you want to keep an eye on. He's undergoing an MRI, but we haven't heard anything on that yet. So that's another one. Matt Stafford, after the game, said he's getting exercise on his thumb, so to keep an eye on that one if he were to miss time as well. And then Nick Boyle was cut off the field with a knee injury, the tight end for the Ravens. And then Devontae Harris exited against the Raiders, cornerback. And then that's really all I had. The major one was definitely Drew Brees, and then possibly Teddy Bridgewater.
Yep, and I saw JaMychal Hasty broke his collarbone, Dave.
Oh, I see that one. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that updated today. I didn't even really know he was hurt, but I saw that today, and I was surprised. But, I mean, the 49ers have just been in running back hell. But the good news is Coleman should be back in a couple weeks after the bye. And I think Mostert's eligible to come off IR. And if he's healthy enough, they'll play him. So it's not like Hasty would be used that much anyway. So
yeah, and then McKinnon did get banged up in that game as well. He left with an ankle injury as well.
Okay. Well, there you go. McKinnon, I didn't know how bad it was, though. Is it bad or...
No, I think he's week to week right now. So after the bye, he should be fine.
Okay, because I thought he was still going to be okay. But, yeah, they got banged up again. I mean, the Niners are just a train wreck of injuries. Let's move into – that's everything I got. Bridgewater was banged up, but Drew Brees was the worst one I had. He's going to be out for a few weeks, possibly the whole fantasy season, right? Broken ribs. And
the punctured lung. They said, maybe not until the playoffs, possibly now.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think too. And Drew Lock should be back. He's banged up a little bit on the ribs, but I think he'll be back. Waiver wire, and I'll just get started. Jameis Winston, obviously. Be careful with Jameis Winston. He's a safety's dream. He likes to throw picks. They watch his eyes, and he kind of stares down receivers, and he seems to make it obvious. But hopefully maybe Sean Payton taught that out of him, got all that bad play out of him. Let's hope. We'll see what happens. But you got to pick him up anyway because he's going to be getting a lot more playing time than Taysom Hill. Now, don't get me wrong. Taysom Hill might be fantasy relevant a little bit for some people, some people that are hurting at the quarterback position. Maybe a 2-quarterback league, Taysom Hill is going to work out for you. So We'll see what happens. I don't know if he's listed as a flex in some leagues, Dave. I haven't really noticed him too much. I don't really own him, but that'd be interesting if he would be flexible. Is he a flex?
No, he's only listed as a quarterback right now.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so Tevin Coleman is what I have, but he is on the bye week, but he's probably someone you got to own with the hasty injury here. Willie Snead had 2 touchdowns for the Ravens. That was interesting. It was a really rainy game. He's really touchdown dependent, in my opinion. But, he's getting the touchdowns, and Marquise Brown is not. So that's interesting. Josh Reynolds had 10 targets for the Rams, so it sounds like they're liking him a little bit more than Cooper Kupp lately. KJ Hamler got 10 targets for the Broncos, so I like that for KJ. Jakeem Grant had a great day on Sunday with a TD and 5-6 targets with the Dolphins. He's kind of there for that injury that they had to, what's his name? And then Kalen Ballage, I think we forgot to mention him last week. I can't remember if we did. I quickly put it in my write-up after the podcast. But he's getting a lot of touches at the Chargers. They seem to like him, and they probably like him a little bit more than even Josh Allen by now. I'm not sure. So
Joshua Kelly.
Or Josh Kelly, so that's interesting. What are your waiver wire, Dave?
Actually, P.J. Walker, the backup for the Panthers, if Teddy Bridgewater's knee injury is serious, we don't believe it is, but if it is believed to be serious, P.J. Walker would be the starter there. So definitely a guy you want to pick up if you need a bye week fill-in. Another guy is Naheem Hines, only owned in 41% of leagues, had 115 total yards this past week. I'm a big Jonathan Taylor fan, but Taylor hasn't just been doing. They're going with the hot hand with Hines, and he had 2 scores this past week as well.
Hines is the better pass catching running back right now, and they're doing a lot of that. And Hines has just been hitting the hole hard. He looks really good. I've been watching a lot of them. And real quick, it's not Will Greer. It is P.J. Walker, Philip Walker.
P.J. Walker, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I wonder what happened to Will Greer. That's interesting. Okay.
He came in late in the last game when he went out. P.J. Walker was the one that came in, so he'd be the guy to own.
All right, well, there you go. Carry on.
And then Kalen Ballage, like you were saying, he's a good pickup, only owned in 19% of leagues right now. He had another great game for the Chargers 2 weeks in a row now. Well, Michael Perrine, he was on bye this past week. The Jets aren't a very good team, but Perrine is going to be the lead back for the rest of the season. They just announced that. So Frank Gore is no longer going to be the starter. Perrine is going to be the starter, and he's going to get the volume. So any running back that you can pick up that has the volume, definitely want to pick him up. Salvon Ahmed for the Dolphins. He had 21 of the 26 running back carries in Week 10, and he had 21 attempts for 85 yards and a touchdown. So definitely a guy you want to take a look at. He's only owned in 5% of leagues right now. Breida's injury prone and might not be back this next week, and Gaskin's going to be out for at least another week. So if you need a bye week fill-in, definitely pick up Ahmad. He's going to be a nice fill-in for you. Another Colts for you to pick up, Michael Pittman. He's played in 87 and 81% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. He had 7 receptions for 101 yards this past week. So definitely pick him up if you need a wide receiver help this week for a wide receiver fill-in. Jacoby Myers, we touched on him briefly last week. If he's still not owned, definitely pick him up. He had another good game. He had 12 catches for 169 yards 2 weeks ago. This last week, he had 7 of the targets of the 17 pass attempts for Cam Newton. So big majority of the passes were targeted to him, and he actually threw a touchdown this week as well. So definitely a guy you want to take a look at picking up this week. Those are my major pickups of the week this week.
All right, my man. That's most of the stuff I have, so good call on that. Why don't you move right into non-starters trending up? All
right, a couple non-starters trending up. Jameis Winston, the guy we just talked about, he's playing the Atlanta Falcons this week. So he's definitely going to be one trending up. Latavius Murray as well. Anyone playing the Falcons defense, I'm pretty much starting. So 2 guys you normally wouldn't start. Murray and Winston, I'm definitely upgrading them against the poor Falcons defense. I'm definitely upgrading anyone that's playing for Pittsburgh right now, too, against the Jaguars, which is probably starting a lot of the Pittsburgh Steelers already. But definitely Claypool and Deontay Johnson, who I just got from Kiev, who had a great week this past week. Thank you very much for trading him to me.
They all did, man. I had Claypool, too. I needed a running back, so thank you for Dobbins. Since I have Ingram, I figured I might as well have Dobbins, but Ingram's been banged up, but you're welcome.
And then I'm actually going with the Patriots against the Texans. The Texans have just been downright horrible this year. So definitely I like the Patriots matches against them. Jacoby Myers. Cam Newton's actually struggled this year. He's been rushed more for more touchdowns than he's thrown, I think, this year. But I do like Cam Newton this week. He would normally not start. Jacoby Myers I do like. And then Harris, actually, the running back from Alabama, young running. If he's out there on waiver wires, definitely pick him up as well. Damian Harris has had a great week this last week. He was over 100 yards as well. So some Patriots I do like against the poor Texans defense. And then I do like the Chargers this week against the Jets. Kalen Ballage, who we just talked about, I like him against the poor Jets defense. Justin Herbert, who we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, I like him in this poor matchup this week. Definitely starting him if you're not starting him already. And then Mike Williams even might be a nice play this week against the Jets as well. So there's some people I like there. Dolphins, I actually like the Dolphins this week too. Salvan Ahmad, who I just talked about. Devontae Parker. Jakeem Grant, another sleeper out there with Preston Williams injured. He had a touchdown this week, so another guy you could look at on the waivers if he's still out there. Against the poor Broncos defense, they've been giving up quite a few points the last couple of weeks. Vikings against the Dallas Cowboys. Matchup I really like as well. I'm starting Justin Jefferson. He went off for 8 catches for 134 yards tonight against the great Bears defense. So definitely like him this week against poor Dallas defense. And then that's pretty much all I had. The rest of them has some pretty tough matchups. The Chiefs I do like against the Raiders, but you're already starting a lot of those guys already, so I'm not going to go into that.
Now you had a ton of the same ones I had. I had Deontay Johnson right on top, just like you said. And obviously Chase Claypool is a starter, so I'm not going to mention him. But Deontay Johnson is kind of borderline, but he's going to be a good player this week. Christian Kirk I have versus Seattle's pass D. I think he's going to have a great game in Seattle. Just like you said, Justin Herbert. Mike Williams is one of mine for sure versus the Jets D. Amari Cooper, believe it or not, I have him versus the Vikings pass D. Now the Bears didn't show it, but maybe he's going to get some better yards against the Vikings. Yeah, I think it's just one of those that you forget about, and I think maybe Dalton will start. You know, I mean, I guess it would have to be dependent on Dalton starting because you trust Dalton more than the other guys, but Amari is probably somebody that we all forgot about. Marquise Brown, he's tough to start, but the Titans' pass D is very bad, like third worst in the league, third or fourth, and they need to change something up. They got to get it to their speedy guys. I think Marquise Brown's going to blow up because of that. I mentioned Damian Harris before for this Patriots versus Houston's run D. Houston's got the worst run D. I think Damian Harris is borderline starter now, so I might not be able to say his name if he has another good game after this anymore for trending up, non-starters trending up here. Kalen Ballage, like you said, versus Buffalo. Buffalo's run D has gotten worse for some reason. Antonio Brown. I'm sorry, not Buffalo. I meant Miami. Antonio Brown. Wait. Doesn't the Chargers? Who's the Chargers play?
Chargers are playing the Jets.
The Jets. That's what I meant. I knew it was in that division. Antonio Brown is a crazy one I'm going to throw out there. Now, we forgot a lot about him. And the Rams, they're very good at guarding the end receivers. They're good. They'll cover Evans. They'll cover Godwin really well. And I think Antonio Brown's going to be sneaky in the slot. And he's going to come out there and have himself a game. And they're going to have some gadget plays. He's due now for a big game with Brady. So watch for him against the Rams. All right, so I think that's everything I have. And I'll move right into Bus, Dave. Week 11 bust. Sorry, Dave, but I have Valdez-Scantling as a bust against Indianapolis's pass D. He had such a big game last week, so a lot of people are going to start him. I'm not buying into him against Indy's D. Ronald Jones, a bust versus the Rams D. I think it's going to be done through the air with Tom Brady. I got Malcolm Brown, who had a monster week last week against Tampa's run D also. Don't like that one. I don't like James Robinson, running back for the Jaguars against the Steelers. Don't like that at all. I think they're going to be throwing a lot. I don't like Mike Evans versus Jalen Ramsey, what I was just talking about. I like Antonio Brown, but not Mike Evans. I don't like Kenyon Drake or Chase Edmonds against Seattle's run D. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a ton, and Kyler Murray's going to be running it. And I don't like Todd Gurley versus the Saints run D at all. Who are your busts, Dave?
Yeah, I had a couple of the same ones as you did, but I do like I do not like any of the Rams against Tampa Bay. I'm definitely benching Malcolm Brown and Devery Henderson against them, same as you. I do have to agree with you on the Packers as well. Indianapolis Colts do have a tough defense. I'm probably downgrading Aaron Jones a little bit, and definitely MVS is being downgraded. Allen Lazard should be back this week. I know he said that the last 2 weeks, but his time is up now for IR. His 3 weeks is up, so they do have to activate him this week, whether or not he is ready. So he will be back this week, but I'm definitely downgrading him as well, even if he is playing. I am downgrading Ryan Tannehill against the Ravens. I do think they bounce back now after their loss to the Patriots, and I think they play well this week. I'm definitely downgrading Tannehill and A.J. Brown. I think it's going to be a tough week for them against the tough Ravens defense. Definitely downgrading, like you said, too. I like the Cardinals this week against the Seahawks, but I'm definitely downgrading the Seahawks. Their running backs are just in shambles right now, so definitely downgrading anyone that's at running back for them. Cardinals have been playing well against the run. And then, like you said, too, Todd Gurley I don't like against the Saints or Jaguars against Pittsburgh. I'm definitely downgrading anyone on the Jaguars. So Ludden or Robinson, I'm definitely downgrading against them. I'm actually going to downgrade, too, the Browns. The Eagles have a pretty good defense, so I'm downgrading Mayfield and Landry, too, against them.
Yeah. The Eagles' defense is decent, but their offense is just terrible. And the Browns have been really weird. You know, how did they not score more than 10 points against Houston at home that week? I guess it was a little windy, but still. Yeah, I mean, you have Chubb, you have great running backs. The Browns are still the Browns kind of in a way. You know, they're just, so they're winning now because they're playing some bad teams. So that's a tough one right there. Let's move right into our nasty sleeper of the week, Dave, and I'll throw out mine first. And I'm going to take a big shot here at a huge fantasy guy that I mentioned already in Antonio Brown. I think it's his week to get it rolling here. I can see him scoring this week. I like him against a better matchup with the Rams. I don't think he's not going to get the tough corners on him, in my opinion. The corners are going to be on the other receivers there. And Gronkowski's probably going to take a little bit of attention off him too. So mine is Antonio Brown.
Nice. I like it. I do like Antonio Brown for this week. Mine's going to be Mr. Crablegs / Mr. Uber, Jameis Winston, against the Atlanta Falcons. I like him against the poor Atlanta Falcons defense. He's going to raise the stock like Teddy Bridgewater did a year ago, filling in for Breeze for next year on the free agent market. I look for Jameis Winston to have a huge day.
Oh, that's an interesting one because he has played Atlanta a lot, playing for Tampa down there. So like what you're thinking there. I do worry about his interceptions and how he's prone for that. But, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater did play really well. He did last year with Breeze out. So that's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, my man. Well, that's all the time we have, Dave. Thanks so much for coming back on and breaking down some fantasy football for Week 11, bud.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, my friends, thank you for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions about any games or if you want us to break something down, please tweet us at the ODDSBreakers. Have a great rest of your week and go get some winners.